contact. We did a blitz period and really thought our defense showed great energy and was very disruptive. We got some work to do up front with the offensive line, but that's to be expected the first time you go through some of those situations. But I think to get our quarterbacks trained and our offensive linemen trained, I always say when you blitz, somebody's band's going to be playing, it better be yours. And so it gives you an opportunity for a big play one way or the other. And so I thought our defensive guys had a significant edge today, but that's somewhat to be expected. A couple guys that didn't finish practice. I think Big E didn't finish practice. That seems correct. But outside of that, everybody did. We're into 5 days. I think we're fairly healthy. But, we've got to grind our guys, and there's only so many full contact days, and this was one of them. We didn't take guys to the ground, but I thought we made some good progress. So that being said, questions.
Big E, is it a big concern? Or
I just got some information while I was out there. He had a patella joint that slipped out of place during spring, and today it bothered him a little bit. So we'll get a better assessment after he gets in the training room today and see if he can go tomorrow.
So you had Mario Moore out there. That was good to see.
Yeah, it was good to see Mario. He had hyperextended his back, which sounds awfully painful, but he's got high pain tolerance. It was great to see him. I think an area of concern, Robert, that I have and our football team, we were pretty deep in the defensive line. We were able to rotate a lot of guys, and I thought that played well on the back end of our schedule. And it's going to be important that we develop depth. Mario's one of those guys that we're really looking at.
Saw Cam Murray getting some running with the first team some today. Mm-hmm. Is there still a competition with him and Braden, or?
Well, we when we double rep,
yeah.
We're looking at snap counts, and we've got GPS chips,
yeah.
and we're looking at how much load guys get, and so we're a little bit concerned about where our safeties are at, how much running they're doing,
yeah.
and probably a little bit of overload. In the old days, you just kind of went out there and looked, and there's something good to be said about grinding through
yeah.
some stuff, but when you get skilled players, that's when pulled hamstrings come into play. A couple of years ago, Andrew Wingard had 2 of them in fall camp, and
yeah.
I think we're just being a little bit cautious there, so we integrated Cam.
Will that be a position where you rotate even regardless of who be as a starter?
You know what, probably, simply
yeah.
because some of those guys are special team guys as well, and it's going to be important that while we may not split reps, kind of like what we do at the defensive line, still I think it's important at the safety and the corner position that you get guys in there that are fresh, because as a guy goes through a game,
yeah.
and if you're particularly in a long drive, you need somebody to go in there to play that has played, when the game's on the line.
You mentioned the first practice in full pads and didn't bring guys to the ground, but did anything stand out once you see guys in full pads and going at it? Anything good, bad, or different?
I would say I thought, and we'll watch the tape here right after lunch, but I thought Ravonte Holt was really explosive. He's a guy who's got really good strength, but his get off on the ball, he was penetrating, he was in the backfield, he was being disruptive. And, that's a sign when you're out there in full pads and a guy's doing that, he's dominating. And now we got to take a look and say, okay, why?
Mm-hmm.
But my assessment is I think he can be a really good defensive tackle this year.
How's Sean throwing the ball so far?
I'd say a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Certainly improved from last year, certainly improved from where he was at. Is he competent enough to where we open up with the Tigers? No, but that's why we're still going to practice some more.
Have you seen Tyler's progression too?
You know what, Tyler yesterday had a great day. His numbers were up, his completion percentage were up, his decision making. Fundamentally, he was on really solid ground, so it was encouraging to see him. The thing about Tyler that is he's a competitive guy, he's a team player, and we came in with a depth chart set as Sean's number 1, but it's not like Tyler's just going out there and punching the clock and going to be a quarterback that stands on the sideline with a baseball cap and a clipboard. He's in there competing, and both those guys make each other better.
When you have as much depth and experience as you do at corner, what's your expectations for that group?
We need to be more dominant this
yeah.
year, and particularly the league that we play in, the skilled players. We need to tax our corners more. Last year we had experienced safeties and a really good defensive line. We don't have as much in the defensive line or as much
no.
in the heart. So we're going to put a little bit more pressure on those corners this year. And they played a lot, and it needs to show.
What is it like to see them compete when you have that many guys that have played so many games?
Well, it always helps, simply because when you have that game experience, there's nothing that can replicate game experience. And when you have that kind of depth, It certainly allows you to be fresher in a game, but I also believe this too, is when you have that kind of depth, you have competition within your football team
Yeah.
that's healthy competition.
Like you mentioned yesterday, fullback is a position that's some good competition. You mentioned Skylar Miller.
Yep.
Who are the other guys, at least right now, in
Well, I
the
would think
mix?
Jeff Burrows is doing some good things, and Jalen Watson. Those three are kind of our fullback position guys.
Are you mentioned depth is something that you really need to solidify during camp. I know it's early still, but is that starting to form at all?
A little bit, you know, we've segmented our staff.
Yeah.
When we get up there, offense and defense are going, but we're gonna start doing some more meetings together and start to look and say, okay, who's starting to rise to the depth chart? Even though we don't have scrimmages right now, it's just an opportunity. Some guys are starting to show their presence. I think it'd be premature for me to make any statement right now, though.
Is corner your deepest position on this team?
I would say relative, I would think quarterback might be because of
Okay.
the number of games. You know, Sean was able
Yeah.
to play, and then Tyler's been able to play. I think we may be a little, probably corner.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it, Craig.
Okay, you got.